people start living first and then the planners move in. You see, the planners must move in first, plan, and then people should start living. Here it's, Abhi, the two ladies would come, you see, a very classic case. They've constructed a house, they were in Panchayat. So, of course, in Panchayat you didn't require that all sorts of regularization and all. And now they are incorporated into a town. So, it's a mismatch. They don't have street, they don't have street lights, no sewerage line, nothing. That's a big challenge. I think Krishnagar is one of the most disaster prone. Krishnagar is one. And you see, if you go by the development of this town, so wherever you have a road moving, adjacent the road, almost everywhere it's a disaster prone area. Why? Because when you constructed the ridge, so the debris was thrown both sides. So that's one of the area which is very prone to disaster. As far as the hutments were concerned, not a big issue. But now you see those hutments have metamorphosized into your bloody brick and mortar, which carries weight. Hutments don't carry weight, na? This entire area of cemetery, Sanjoli, because though some beautiful buildings have come up there, but if some earthquake comes, at times it's so difficult even to carry the dead body out here. Can you believe it? So maybe the more proneness is at those areas which are merged areas, we would say. Merged areas means that earlier they were with the panchayats where this moribund growth has taken place.
We are standing right now in Sanjoli and cemetery area of Shimla city, and it is one of the most vulnerable zones as far as city's vulnerability or the hazard risk is concerned, because first of all it's vulnerable area to landslide and sliding zone, and the way the people have constructed the houses or the development pattern of the whole area, it makes the vulnerability of the area and of the people at a very high level. You can see there is hardly any space between the houses, so in case of any emergency it will be a very big challenge for the district administration or city administration to actually go and rescue people, or maybe start the evacuation work. So this is going to be a big challenge for the city, and right now there seems to be no solution for it, because it's already this area is home to thousands of people, so it's difficult to actually relocate them or replan it.
Underneath the ridge is a huge water reservoir which supplies water to the entire town of Shimla. And what even fewer know is that the ridge is slowly sinking.
If the hillside sinks and the reservoir is affected, then you see there will be a deluge in Shimla.
The trouble is that over the years, parts of the ridge have slowly and gradually been shaved to make markets like this Tibetan market. But haphazard and unplanned construction means that when the heavy rains fall, there is no natural flow for the rainwater, and that in turn creates landslides. Now 98% of the buildings in Shimla are actually unsafe and earthquake prone. Now simply put, that means that should a severe jolt actually come, this entire town would reduce to rubble and debris.
This city, every 2-3 years, suffers an acute hepatitis crisis. The links to sanitation are not being drawn to the fact that this city is a septic tank based city predominantly, and there are no good systems of desludging, that they all get emptied into the nalas on the hillsides in the rains, and it's all going down, and it's all and you have water pipes running in the same systems, which are intermittent water supply, which are sucking in things. 19th century developed industrializing countries did not have modern medicine. Rich and poor perished alike. So those guys had to do something about it. I mean, when the Thames would stink enough for the parliament not to sit, they had to do something about it. All of them got together, and by the time we start facing these crises, modern medicine is there, the rich can exit. So sanitation becomes more an aesthetics issue in a country like India. I mean, what do people bemoan? They bemoan the sight of people defecating in the open. Not the fact of what it leads to, it's the sight. As a city, it has a certain dependence on tourism. It is the capital city of the state, so it does have a parallel narrative. I mean, it is about, government and people coming here for that, and education and health. But that also would be impacted hugely. What do people really feel? What is a disaster for them? How do they react to it? How do they perceive it? Because that can help you really design your communication. Because finally it's about communication. And if you just thrust down messages from above, they're like water off a duck's back. And they're just going away. So can you, on the basis of analyzing people's knowledge and attitude and perception, can you design communications which will really connect? So it's similar here. I feel it, because this is, again, a fairly public good area, disaster risk mitigation, that it's not just my house, it's my neighbor's house which can affect me. Exactly. And their inability to take care of things can affect me adversely, even though I may have built a very well-proofed house, say in an earthquake situation. So, therefore, I must somehow get the community to feel that they need to do something about it.
There is hardly any collective consciousness there. There's hardly any collective consciousness. Very few people think on those channels. Very few. It's only, and then maybe also because of the structure that I told you, the bourgeois structure and that feudal mind. They say when something will happen, let's see how things happen. So you're not prepared for a disaster to happen.
You could find communities which have, say, worked on a certain amount of disaster proofing, drought proofing, so to say, or increasing their water availability, etc. That there would be communities which, building harvesting structures, looking at how to enhance percolation of groundwater in their areas, etc. That examples would be possible, yes. But those are worked through a different set of programs. The messaging has not gone through climate change. There is a natural tendency to adapt. So without actually internalizing an explicit message. In lower belts where apple productivity was dropping, they shifted to alternate. On the other hand, apple has shifted massively in the higher reaches. Up in Upper Kinnaur and Spiti. Apple has reached villages where it was never ever thought conceivable.
No integration.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the important part, no? That's what I've actually focused on, integrated development. Now, why is that not happening here? Precisely because you're working in a bourgeois structure but with the people within that structure. After all, you have to perform, who have a feudal and semi-feudal mindset and consciousness. That's the reason. Everyone at the sittings says that I know the best. You see, because that feudal mindset, status kind of thing, that my status, you see, I am Ixian, I am municipal, no one knows better than me, and my domain has to be completely isolated from anyone else.
We are supply-driven mode. We are rich enough to subsidize hardware. At least we feel that. So we've been constantly doing that. The places where we made significant headway in the last decade is a state like Himachal, which in 2005 took a policy decision that we will not subsidize individual household toilets, despite the government of India's money, that we will not give it as a subsidy for household toilets. And we made the most significant progress here in 5 years, compared to any state in India. I mean, the census shows it. It's not my figures. So what the program is actually incentivizing, the central transfer program, is saying that if you don't achieve, we'll give you more money. Right? It's not performance oriented at all to the outcome which you want. So that is one of our biggest battles right now, is to convince GOI that the central transfer scheme needs to move, it needs to shift focus from inputs to outcome. In terms of resilience, I think despite everything, the governance structures are better than most places in Himachal. Overall, despite, I mean, we bemoan the lack of responsiveness, the poor quality, etc. It's still more responsive than I think most places, and more, especially in a crisis, more likely to react and function. And community spirit is not bad. It's not bad. I think it can be energized quite well if we really work at it. We also need to draw up a new set of city responsibility structures, accountability structures. You'll have to decentralize that. Within the city, you'll have to zone and have responsibility systems for, and not be line based, but be area based, so that outcomes for various services area wise can be single responsibilities, and those people then are competing in a sense to see how things are improving, because you need to start benchmarking and start creating a competition within the city. It has so many repercussions for their property taxation, for their disaster risk management, for their soil, for their basic services. Everything is linked and they can't do. I mean, I don't see any reason why they can't do it. You can show actually through the atlas that these portions of Shimla are highly vulnerable, and that you could do simulations and show that what is going to happen with what kind of say an earthquake or whatever, a disaster of different kinds of disaster, what could happen to an area. That would be far more effective communication. All they can think of is setting up barriers outside the city and taxing outsiders for bringing in their cars. That they think is, and it's just revenue generation. It's not about regulation, it's not about pollution. They may say it, but it's only about generating a certain amount of money. So till you have a city which is willing to think that, if we want to have services, we need to pay for them and we can get quality. We won't have that, so we are not reached that point yet. And especially as you keep having this JNNURMs with, make a CDP, there's always the hope we'll get the money without needing to do anything. Today you have PMGSY 2, and what is it saying? It's saying we will upgrade and improve existing roads. So if you can show that existing roads are poor, are badly off, you get more money. If you were foolish enough to do your roads up well, you get less money. The incentives are all perverse in this intergovernmental transfer system. And all the flagship programs have perverse incentives. And that is the problem. So DRR can end up going the same way, especially when you start getting funding for, retrofitting, we'll now give you money for retrofitting. Okay? So I'll project more buildings for retrofitting, if that is going to be a major program. When I was looking after disaster, my priority was first, as I said, we need to understand that this is a low priority. And we need to be able to look at how will we seek to address that. How do we make it into something which is more a felt need.